What's Good podcast.
Are you ready?
Your number one source
to all the keys in the industry.
With Brianna Javon.
It's the What's Good podcast.
What's good? Hey, ladies and gents, this is your girl Brianna Javon with another Wild Card Wednesday for season 3 of What's Good podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. I definitely am excited about this guest that we have today. His name is Knowledge, and I'm so excited to pick the brain of Knowledge, okay? And so, as you guys know, we do not have interviews. Instead, we have genuine conversations. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Knowledge, as you know, I always start off with icebreakers because some people be like, oh, I don't know what to expect from Bree. So what we have for you is, what is your biggest challenge? If that means personal, if that means, the radio, anything of that nature, what has been your biggest challenge?
Well, I would say that my biggest challenge is dealing with the fact that whatever I can do, it's enough. And that's what I'm supposed to be able to do or contribute at that particular time, whether that's personal, whether that's radio, whether that's out in the community, whatever it is, finding that comfortable balance and center and focus and know that where I am and what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing, and it is enough,
I love it. Okay. And with that being stated, we're about to get into our genuine conversation. So I want to start off with, who is Knowledge Born Alive? Who are you? Who is this guy?
He's the son. I say that with all distinction and honor because I come from amazing bloodlines who saw fit for me to come into the physical world through them. From a contract that we agreed upon on the other side to the physical world. So my mother and my father and their bloodline agreed for me to be the sum total of them. So a son. So a father, one who is steadfast in his duty as a black man to be an example and a guide, because we don't own our children. We're here as guides. As a black man, my job is to guide my children along their path so they can complete their mission. So that, a brother, so after son, after father, on the pathway to father, you become a brother, and that's a process that you have to learn. So to my siblings and my brothers and sisters and my immediate family, I was a brother to them. And that meant a protector. That meant at times a provider, at times an instigator, at times a comedian, a counselor, and an adjudicator. So many of those things come along the way in the path as a brother. All of that's kind of enveloped in as an African, because the African's religion is his or her family. So they are the pride and the hope of our generations that have transitioned from physical sight, meaning our ancestors, our elders who are on their way to make that transition, our peer group, who we are coming up with, our youth, and our ancestors yet to come through those children. So that sum total of the African experience is presented in that fashion in regards to the family, so that black family, the African family, is paramount to the development of the proper African acumen and psyche. So, all of those things together, and on top of those things, there are other skills that I possess that have been set in my path to these particular works. So, I guess that's the short answer.
Mm-hmm. And the fact is that you are very knowledgeable when it comes to, your ancestors and to knowing your history. I've been hearing a lot. You have to unlearn the things you've learned. And I feel like every time I talk to you, you just give me more and more of history and background. What made you do your studies and do your work to let me figure out that so I can figure out, how I am today and who I am today?
My mother and my father did this before me, and the hope with my coming is that I would continue their work. So they basically put this in my crib, for me. So I learned how to love our people. I learned how to love our history from my family. From learning from my family, like education was very serious in our household. Not so much in the public school system, but very paramount in our household. So before I went to kindergarten grade, I learned multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, cursive. I was speaking two languages before I went to kindergarten because of everybody else in the house. Everybody else in the house that was there. I have elder siblings. I'm the fourth child, directly smack dab in the middle of 7 children, 3 older and 3 younger. So I gained from their wisdom. My mother had 14 other brothers and sisters. So my aunts and my uncles and all of that, just through family, like that foundation that I was speaking about, they imparted these particular jewels and paths in their lane and in the way that they did it best. So it was there in my crib. So I was the one who was supposed to take all of that experience out to our people. So the study of learning how to love and be patient with our people and correct, our people in the same process all came from at home. So, it wasn't a book. It wasn't a, story or an event, unless you call birth an event and not a process. These were all of the things that brought these things into fruition in regards to my duty and responsibility to our people. It came from birth.
And I know that you are really big on community as well. And like you mentioned, you're very family oriented. So do you feel like that kind of intertwines with one another?
I mean, families make up a community. So community outreach was an extension of something I did ever since I was a child, I believe. On one way or another, my mother found a way to rationale. I was always somewhere fighting against a bully. I never played with the bully situation. I never played with the disrespect of black women. So you could imagine, I had younger sisters, how much, handling I had to handle out here in the streets, So, these were always, these are situations that grew into causes, I love young people that grew into me becoming a coach and a youth outreach for at-risk youth because I was an at-risk youth, quote unquote. So someone was there for me along the way. So people deserve to have someone there along the way for them. And that's community. If you go back to that adage that says it takes a village to raise a child, one child, what does it take to raise multiple children? So that village concept, there were people in my neighborhood who took me to museums, who taught me martial arts, who taught us our history, who taught me the African drum, things like that, because they saw something in me that I had to grow into.
Yeah.
But they were there planting those seeds along the way. So you see these young people out here, they are starving for love, compassion, patience, and correction. They're starving for it. But because they don't have it, they go to places to try to find it. They go to places to try to find it. And some transition from our physical sight before they ever receive it. But on their way out, they have children. So their children are stuck with the burden of what they never had before them. So community is definitely intertwined. And, my children, they're in the community with me. They see what's going on and they understand our fight and our situation.
Yeah.
Our children come with information. We are there to provide confirmation, not information. They come with it. They have our best genetics. So they're here on a mission. And they need guidance, they need patience, and they need confirmation. They need to be confirmed within themselves so they don't seek confirmation outside of themselves or validation outside of themselves. They have that space within self where they can see this self-love. And when you have self-love, you look to extend that love to people who look like you. So you can see past those things, the trauma in the drama, okay? Because we got trauma in drama, the yin yang. But with patience, when you remember someone was patient with you, when you were learning how to walk, when you were learning how to talk, when you couldn't feed yourself, someone was there for you. Someone was there for you. The village was there for you. So you have an older responsibility back to the village. So this is what you see. And then there's a reminder to be thankful for what you have. Because there are people who might be your age and don't have it. I'm feeding 100 children in my community. I've been doing this since COVID. It started off with 50 children. Now it's 100 children ever since COVID began. 1 meal a day, 5 days a week. And we didn't know where the money was going to come from. But we just got started. You see what I'm saying? We just got started, and it's 4 of us that are taking care of the youth and 4 of us that are taking care of the elders. And we've been doing it since, March. But we established a relationship with that community last year with Thanksgiving, with Christmas, with coats, with clothes, with boots, with shoes, and then the back to school stuff, and all of these relationships that are there and centered around someone who looks like you, caring enough about you, don't even have to know you, but it's providing for you. And this is how we begin to have the conversation and build and establish those relationships of trust. I'm not going to misuse you, and you're not going to misuse me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So we're going to work in tandem with one another. I'm going to show you that you care, and I need you to care about yourself, and then care about others who look like you, who might be in the position that you're in.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. So that's connectivity. That's a relationship established righteously, even though the way for us coming together may not have been ideal. But our Creator is the best of planners. You see what I'm saying? So our Creator will find a way to bring us together. You see what I'm saying? So
that's beautiful knowledge. I mean, like, what gives you that inspiration to build those type of meaningful connections?
That's rooted again in family, rooted again in family. Like I had a tumultuous journey coming to the planet. It wasn't just birth. My birth story is a whole story within itself, So my mother and my father and my family cared enough for me to be here. I wasn't supposed to be here. That's the whole story right there. You see what I'm saying? So because of that, and seeing my mother being the warrior woman that she was, seeing my father being the warrior man that he was, what else am I supposed to be?
You're breaking up just a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just a little breakage, just a little bit.
Well, I guess long story short, it's just my family is, a great motivating factor, and they still are, to this day.
I hear you good now. I mean, if you want to tell the story, because I'm really intrigued. Go ahead and tell the story. That's why I was like, wait. It's getting really good. You're breaking up, but come on, you're good. You're clear.
My mother taught us always about our birth story, and the things that happened during our birth. So she was the griot for us in the family, the preservation of the family history. So, that kind of motivated me and inspired me to, always be able to preserve and share that story of my birth. I was born premature, I was born in the 6th month. And the doctor said that I wouldn't make it past the first year. I spent the first year of my life in the hospital in the incubator. And, there were some things that were done in the hospital during my time there in the first year of my life that gave me a kind of a renewed sense of a connection to our people. There's some things I could get into, but my mother's fighting spirit, she talked to me. She told me, she bought me a little football jersey. She said I used to be able to fit in the palm of her hand. I was like 2 pounds and 2 ounces, and then I had dropped down to like 1.5 pounds. She said, "You're gonna live. You're gonna live." Like, these words of affirmation, these words of power. These words have power and resonance. So, with that jersey and that football, she said, "You're gonna be to grow to the size of a football player." Like, these are the things that she would tell me. Coming to see me. To not think of the moments. And to think about the mission. But her focus on her mission. Her mission was a mother. And she said that was the greatest job that she could ever do, was be a mother. So not the fact was she was just a mother, she was our mother. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of push, and you come from those kinds of circumstances. Your first challenge. You asked me about what's my biggest challenge. Coming from that challenge of a decision to live. And push through. They said, when I was in school, that I was gonna have to be in the slow classes, and I wouldn't develop like the other children and all of that. So I just described to you what it looked like before I went to kindergarten. So think about that. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of village, my family, my aunts, anybody who was there with me, knowing what I had to go through and what they said would happen, they defied all the odds. They refused to allow that moment to define what the mission would be. So everybody worked with me, So this is why I work with everybody. They were patient with me. This is why I'm patient with our people. I understand what that trauma and drama is not defining me. They're characteristics and traits of learned behavior that have been picked up along the way that have not been dealt with. When you're dealing with hurting people, they hurt people. They were hurt. That's the behaviors that they picked up based off of those experiences, and they have to be dealt with. That takes patience. We have to have the patience and the vision of a farmer out here with our people. The Bible said the faith of a mustard seed. You understand what I'm saying? Like that amount, what you can do. But if you think about the farmer and the analogy of the farmer has to go out to what looks like dead space and envision a bountiful harvest in that dead space. So we have to go out to the field in the heart and the mind of our people that looks like dead space and begin to speak words of power and affirmation to the ground before you even break ground. You have to know with a surety in your heart and in your spirit that you connected to this landmass or this heart or this mind of this people, that they are worthy of love, kindness, gentleness, all of these things that we crave, that we go to artificial means to use, to seek out, to walk that ground and prepare the earth before you even break ground. And it's hard work. It's hard work. It's back-breaking, aching work. And you're like, are my people even getting it? You're thinking like it's tireless until you see those seeds that you planted bear fruit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you got the moment from the breaking ground, the irrigation, and all of those things in the process to topsoil.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you hit topsoil, before you hit topsoil, you have weeds.
Mm-hmm.
Weeds come out. You know what I'm saying? And you look at the weeds, and you're like, man, I wish I could kill all the weeds. But the weeds is evidence of the test and the fight of the crop that broke soil.
Yes, knowledge.
So you know that you're dealing with the best crop.
Mm.
You know you're dealing with the best art because it went through and survived that tumultuous journey underground, and not even a weed could kill it.
Mm-hmm.
So now this bountiful harvest is able to feed the community, the global community, because of that process. So people around the world that you may never see will glean from the experience of you being tried and tested and passing that test. So at that point right there, in between you having passed that test and the world gleans from the benefit of it.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that, you're mindful of when times get tough and times get difficult, that you have been in difficult times and places and spaces before, and you will prevail.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are kind of, things that I was, kind of pondering about in that regard.
I love it. I love it. So let's shift gears and talk about your platform. I initially met you.
Okay.
You reached out to me about Dr. Inky. So shout out to you for making that connection. And you have a lot of connections through your platform. So if we could shed a light about your platform and how the vision came to you, because I mean, it's for our brothers and for our sisters. And and I just love the support because all of a sudden now there's a trend to buy black, but you've always been like that. Like for you and I, we are for our community, and then not just because of the trend right now. Not saying anything is wrong. I'm not bashing the Black Lives Matter, but what I am saying is that it should have been for us by us situation. It should have always been for our community. So for you, since you've been doing this, I want to know more about like your vision for your platform and your radio talk show and things of that nature.
Were you trying to get the book already before the book is done? Look at you. You see what I'm saying? Like you trying to get your book, our book and book out here. Now, 5 years ago today, it started, longer than that, but the show started 5 years ago today, to the date.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Happy 5 years.
Was looking for a way to do what we were doing in the community and reach more people. So I used to listen to African History Network, Bobby McElhenney, his show, and Red Blue Pill, Know the Ledge Radio, their show. It was on Blog Talk. So I didn't know nothing about Blog Talk or any of that. I just knew I listened to their shows. And there was a gap in between. The shows used to come on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. So McElhenney got busy with a bunch of other platforms. He was working simultaneously at the same time, elections and all kinds of stuff. And Red and Blue Pill, they were doing the same thing. So there was a void now for those minds who were being fed off those particular platforms. So I was talking with my brother while I preach, and he's like, what else could we do? I said we could do a show on the internet. And he was like, you know anything about that? I was like, no. You know what I'm saying? But we will figure it out. So I went and was looking around, and I saw a blog talk. So I signed up for the blog talk August 25th, 2015. I was looking, all right, I'm going to call the show Knowledge Radio, because this is a systematic analysis in regards to looking at the Black experience. It's a process, a systematic process that is labeled from a cultural representation that I went through. So this was a thing, they would say through the knowledge. So they would look at something from an analytical perspective in a myriad of different ways. So that term. And the goal was to be a voice for the voiceless, a place where you could come and be honored and respected. We honor our ancestors, those we know that are popular and those we don't know that may not have been so popular. So a voice for the voiceless amongst our ancestors, amongst our elders, amongst our peer group, amongst our youth. All of those aspects of the society, of the community, of the family, they were all represented. So that was one part. And then the other part was to give a space and a place for our brothers and sisters who have products, who have services, who write books, who write poetry, who have businesses, they have skills, they have talents, they have gifts to share with the world. We used to go to community events and there would be vendors. We used to go to community events and our ancestors whose presence was involved. We used to go to events and before people got to speak, they asked the elders for permission to speak. So this was like a regular thing that I no longer saw out in the community, that my mother and father and their mothers and fathers walked the streets of helping Black people. Elders were disrespected now. Ancestors were disrespected now. Mm-hmm. People were looking to be self-grandized. All of this trauma and drama was the order of the day, the chaos and the confusion. So this was not going to be another way station that would lay hold to frivolous debates and disrespect and disregard for people's spiritual inclination and political affiliation. We didn't have any of that. So the mind frame was to ensure that what was ours was respected and protected. So that was the whole means in regards to that. So, August 29th, 2015, the first episode, and it was a research question. Because, I was in my psychology mode, in college, so everything was around research questions and functional definitions of this and that and da-da-da-da-da, from, a spirit of looking to speak about the conditions of our people. So the first episode was what is consciousness. Mm-hmm. So it was a 2-part episode. Before the subject, I give people opportunity to call in, promote themselves, promote their business, whatever. Do Not Radio has and always will be a guest-centered platform. I'm the host, I'm the facilitator, whatever, but it's a guest-centered platform. When you came on as a guest, you felt truly like a guest, right?
Yeah.
When it was your platform, it was Bree Day. You understand what I'm saying? It was Bree Day, so it was a celebration and upliftment of Bree. Mm-hmm. So every guest who comes on is centered around them. Mm-hmm. And back then that was strictly audio, so people could call in. So even the people who called in who wanted to speak to the guest, they could promote themselves. I'm like, hey, before you go, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Oh, where you at? Oh, so if you're in this place, make sure you get a hold of blah, blah, blah. How can people reach you? Boom, boom. So people coming in, they're all a part of this experience. It's not just, whoever the guest is or whoever the host is, in the antics of the host or the craziness of the host or whatever it is. It's a community. Our elders call it communiversity. So that's the whole situation before it became edutainment. You understand what I'm saying? So that push toward that, sense and focus centered around our needs and our celebration, our upliftment, our motivation, to hash out our problems, in our discord, to move in a space of trust. I thought it went horrible. You understand what I'm saying? I thought it went horrible because I didn't know anything about the platform. I kept getting booted off. I thought that this was these long pauses and getting back in. And my brother, watch you preach, called me after the episode. He was like, "Yo, man, you sure you ain't did radio before? Like, you had everything and everything was going smooth and all kind of people was calling in." And I'm like, "But what episode did he hear?" Because in my mind, asterisk. You understand what I'm saying? So again, when you know something is God sent, it works out of the scope and realm of your limited. You look up, it's 100 episodes, 200 episodes. Oh, it's 1 year. Oh, it's 2 years. Oh, it's 3 years. Oh, it's 4 years. Oh, it's 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000 episodes. You know what I'm saying? So you're going and you're like, you look up now, 5 years, 1,800 episodes and counting. So I'm like, all right, so when does the train end? When can I get off at my stop? Okay. Mama Harriet told me, when do I get off the Underground Railroad? And she said, never. And I got back on the train and kept on rolling. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I love it.
The other part to the question was about the vision. The vision is to continue to be a voice for the voiceless and to build a bridge between Black people in the diaspora and Black people on the continent. So diaspora is anywhere outside of the continent of Africa, and build a bridge there and attempt to improve those relationships that are strained due to propaganda on both sides. Negative thoughts that we have about people on the continent, our brothers and sisters on the continent, and negative thoughts they have on us, that are seeded by, some entities that don't want us to work together. You see what I'm saying? So to use the platform to be able to bridge those gaps. There's a bunch of stories I could talk to about that, but that's, in regards to a vision. To continue to celebrate our ancestors, to continue to celebrate our elders, our peer group, and our youth, and provide opportunities for them to be uplifted and to be affirmed.
I love it. So, as you mentioned, today is your 5-year anniversary. What made you stay dedicated and committed for the craft of celebrating the ancestors and supporting the community? What made you stay consistent and, committed to the craft?
Well, the need was very, very great. Like, it began as a weekend platform, the Saturday and Sunday. That's what I could commit to at the time, and I thought that would be feasible, where you would get the most people's attention at the time. And there were some people that I wanted to have on as guests that weren't available on the weekend, so I did a few shows during the week. And the response was overwhelming. And then I started doing like a think tank series and a venting session kind of series, and people were coming in, and they would come in during the week. So I was like, the need was so great. This was 1, 2 hours, 3 hours out of the day. What do you have for the rest of the day? What are you inundated with? Who is pushing your buttons, and who is controlling your habits and your attitude and your reflection of yourself for the rest of that time. So, 2 hours, 3 hours was nothing in comparison to the rest of the hours in the, it's 24 hours in the day. I got a third. You understand what I'm saying? So, you look at that, and that's a push. You can face burnout, because I've done it. You can face people no longer seeing the value in what you provide, because I've been through that. There are all of those things in regards to those things right there. But you remember your mission and your purpose. Your mission and your purpose wasn't any of those things. your mission, your purpose was whatever you set forth to do, and that you made an oath or an obligation to our Creator and to your ancestral lineage. So people come and they go. They're supposed to. You understand what I'm saying? This is why we have seasons. It's not summer all the time, because it tells you that things change. It's one earth, but all of these instances, in the places that have 4 seasons, you have 4 seasons for a reason. And there's certain modalities where you're supposed to be during those seasons. So all of those things, again, back to the farmer analogy, in regards to agriculture and all of those things, these are all of those things that are there that are necessary for development to take place on a continuous cycle. So yeah, you get the averages, you get the flows. You got high tide, you got low tide. You got full moon, you got quarter moon, you got no moon. You understand what I'm saying? Like, these things go in divine alignment and grand procession. So you take the good with the good, because there ain't no bad. You take the good with the good, and you make the good gooder.
Not make the good gooder. I love it. So I do want to know the inspiration of your name, Knowledge Born Alive. I want to know more information because I love it. And me just knowing your story now, because this is my first time, like, now I got the seat to know more about you. Usually you got the seat for me. Now I got the seat for you. The roles have been reversed. So, Knowledge Born Alive. I want to talk more about your name and, where did it come from?
From a cultural rites of passage ceremony. So, I've done a lot of things in my life in regards to spiritual or religious journeys as a study of how to engage our people, to learn the languages of our people, to learn the organizational structures that our people are involved in. Because you can't help nobody if you don't know the story.
That's right.
So I joined a bunch of organizations, political, revolutionary, religious, spiritual, to study our people. There were things like poetry, there was things like hip hop, all of the interests, wherever the interest was, to the college campus, to military school. My ancestors saw fit to have me in all of those places to be able to learn all of those languages, to be able to help our people wherever they are, on whatever level they are. Mm-hmm. So, Knowledge Born Alive is something that came from a particular school of thought that I went through, and it's called the Lost 5%, or the Nation of Gods and Earth, and that process through the knowledge was a systematic process, and that systematic process goes from knowledge to born. So this is where you take your thoughts and ideas to, the information that you receive. You take it from knowledge to born. So that's from 1 to 9, and there, stops along the way where you look at it and you this particular information, because we don't take anything on face value. In a mathematical, what you do on one side, you have to do on the other side. Mm-hmm. So this is that systematic mathematical approach from knowledge to born. So in that school, I learned that language and that culture from those people. And when I was done with that process, and I took some people through that process, I was given this name in Balad, Iraq. You understand what I'm saying? So, one of my brothers, he was one of the elders in this particular family. He gave me that name. So if y'all saw Belly, I heard Method Man say, "Knowledge Born." What's this house? I had to do that for the rest of my life. So shout out to Method Man for making that famous. So it was just interesting, and that name comes from that initiatory rites ceremony, and someone seeing that in me, and that's what it was.
Beautiful. And so, as you mentioned, I do want to talk about some of your guests. You have many prominent people that you have featured on Do the Knowledge Radio. And so I want to talk about like the strategic as far as like picking those guests or, them coming to you. I want to be on the show. How do you choose the guest that comes on your show? Because I think either last week or tomorrow, Cassidy is going to be there, right? He's going to be the featured guest.
No, he's been on before already.
Yeah. So how do you choose the people? Cause I mean, like, there'd be some really inspiring people I'll be watching. I'm like, okay, I like this. It's good.
Well, it just depends. Like everybody has a story. You have a story. So I was there, working with our brother, Dr. Inky, and I was looking to get him on platforms because he has a story that's out of this world.
Yes.
And I don't think he could ever tell it in one interview. You see what I'm saying? And the people that he's helped, they have stories. They have testimonies about his products and services. So, working with him and working with so many others, there's so much. You sit down with people, so you get a chance to hear their story.
Mm-hmm.
You would never know. You would never know what somebody had to go through in order to do what they're doing.
That's right.
And just regular life, regular life. So I look for a story. It's an interest in the person and then, or the gifts or the talents. So then I want to know the story behind the story. So I get a chance to sit with them and glean from their experience. And this may be the first time in their life where they get a chance to talk about themselves. It's awkward with some people. They like, I'm like, you're in business. You're in business. You know what I'm saying? You're in business. You got products and stuff. You got stuff for people that need it, and they need to know that you exist. Well, because we come from a thing and we think talking about ourselves is being boastful, or being prideful. And it's none of those things. It's business. People need to know. Word of mouth is still the strongest promotional tool. So I don't have to share the same belief system as somebody in order for them to come on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
We're welcome to, spiritual paths of all kinds, political affiliations of all kinds. So it's a welcoming experience for our people, indiscriminate of what they believe in.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking like, oh, everybody in the world and it's melting pot. You get 2 black people in the room and you got a whole party. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that experience is amazing. You see, so that story, when the sister came on, y'all was collaborating together and y'all created a magical experience for podcasters that were interested in starting or improving. That was amazing. You see what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Y'all don't have to know each other. Y'all don't have to be in the same space. Y'all share a common interest and say, okay, I was struggling doing this, and I wish somebody would have told me this. Oh, girl, let's collaborate together and let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And that experience, from those people, that's priceless. They're gonna remember that forever.
Mm-hmm.
So, opposed to like, I need help with my podcast. Brianna. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's that. That's a referral network that's there. That top of the mind experience based off of these experiences. I've seen your interviews. I see your way with people. I see how you get people to come out of their comfort zone, and all of these things. This is magic. Okay, this is magic. This is powerful. And it's necessary. So providing that experience leads to referrals. Do you know how many interviews came from referrals?
I definitely agree. Yeah.
A zillion. You understand what I'm saying? Like a zillion. I've been on the phone with people that, are quote unquote celebrities for like hours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many people that's out here that's just like celebrity people that just want to talk to regular people and just be regular?
I agree.
And then regular conversation. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Like, So they just be, what do you call it? They're refreshed. They're overjoyed. Like, man, like, it's not going to be normal. Once the fanfare is removed, then you see them as people, and I don't approach it from the vantage point of a journalist, even though we like media. I'm not a journalist. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm not looking for dirt and gossip and trash and that. Like, I want to see you for you, very genuine, to my heart. So I use that approach with every guest, So.
Yes, knowledge. All right. So as you mentioned, you are 5 years in the game. 1,800 episodes. How many episodes? I said it right?
Yep, 1,800. Yeah, you did that. You did that.
Gosh almighty. So with that being stated, through your journey, I'm sure you have your highs and your lows. And that's what this segment is about. It's just the storytelling for people to learn a little bit more about you through those moments where you question, like, should I keep moving forward? Should I, keep going with this platform? Is anybody being touched by it? So the first half of it is to understand your highs. What high can you say, knowledge did that? Pat myself on the back. I understand what that situation was for, and I'm glad I came out on top.
Well, the platform was award-winning, We received an award, RBG Media Award. Our first year. It wasn't even a year. The first year. I went to Texas. I went to RBG on the weekend and received an award for RBG Media. That was, and if that's not a motivation, that's a super duper motivation. So, you have moments where you question yourself and see if it's worth it. And it becomes like work and it's no longer fun. It's no longer inspiring to you, so you don't think it's going to be inspiring to anybody else. And there was a time, I'm kind of answering the questions at the same time. The highs was to be able to go somewhere and people recognize the brand, because it wasn't visual, so it wasn't like they just seen me, I think that was good, like people just talking up on me either. But they was able to recognize the brand, then they put a face to the brand, and then they realized, like, oh man, this is a good dude, whatever. Like, oh, he really cares about his people. Oh, he really cares about the youth, and blah 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 blah. Those things are great. So this is confirmation. This is an information. Essentially, I was put on the path, and I know that I'm sticking with that path. You see what I'm saying? It became a point where we had a different show every day, 5 days a week, not the same show twice. I did guest on the weekend. So I used to joke and say, we on 8 days a week, 26 hours out of the day. So it was that kind of, push, and that push, was a propeller, but also at the same time, a thing for the decline, because I was on so much. It was like, whatever, it wasn't, a wow factor there anymore. But again, you reflect back on those moments as tools that know that they come along with it. And those moments are reflective, but they're not the sum total collective. The mission is more important than the moment. You pull through those moments. I was told that I couldn't go on the radio. I had to take a seat. And it was like 8 months where I didn't do no radio. I tried at times, and it didn't happen. I was guest on a couple of people's platforms, and I was on one platform in particular. My sister Keisha, brother Tad, and Ashe, they had Straight Black Talk at the time, and I was on there with another guest, Steve Copley Sr., his son, Steve Copley Jr. I was promoting him and what he was looking to accomplish, continuing on the legacy of his father, peace be upon him. And somebody was like, yo, New knowledge, they from New York, the New York City folk, they talk like that. Yo, new knowledge, man. What's up with the platform, son? Like, yo, son, I missed the platform, son. When you coming back, son, they talk like that. So, I was like, huh. So I went back and, looked at the whole situation, and that was time. So, that was a shout out on the other side, like, hey, yo, get back to work. So, you have to be in order to, be present. So there were some things that I had to do in that time in order to get things back in order. So working back in divine order. And you can't be so overwhelmed with what you think your mission is that you also miss out moments too. You see what I'm saying? So they work in tandem. The mission is more important than the moment, but those moments are important to your mission. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So they work together. So those highs and those lows. There were people that was around that you thought would be around, for a long time, and they were around for a season. You have to be okay with that. You know what I mean? Creating a podcast network before I knew what a podcast network was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So those things, giving opportunities and hearing stories. Stories never get old, no matter how many times. I'll give an example. I was working with some brothers and sisters in Damon, Israel, Northern Africa. They came to me and said they wanted Student House Radio to be the official place where they tell their story.
Nice.
And so this was Voice of Zion. So Student House Radio was the place where Voice of Zion could be heard, where their voice could be heard, giving the voice to the voiceless. Now, they have a story of repatriation that goes back 50 years ago. These brothers and sisters left Chicago and went with their leader, His Excellency Ben Ami, with some people from the Honorable Martin Messiah Garvey's delegation who heard that there were some people in Chicago, in North America, that wanted to go and return back to Africa to live. So they came from Liberia to Chicago. So those brothers and sisters who left from Chicago, Illinois, to Liberia, and from Liberia to Damon, Israel. And that's a story. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we look in the Bible and we see Exodus. This was an Exodus.
Oh, wow.
This was an Exodus. You understand what I'm saying? From under Pharaoh. But this was an Exodus, to a land of their own, So this happened, in our time frame, and they've been here 50 years, So their story, this is a story not widely told. If you know, you know. Yeah. But, due to that, being in that position and them finding value in the broadcast, they chose this broadcast. They could have been anywhere. They were hooked into everybody. But they chose this platform. They chose Student House Radio, So that was a remarkable gift to one of those head nods, one of them confirmations, like, hey, you're on the right track. You understand? You're doing what you're doing. So yeah, it was just interesting. And there's a bunch of other stories, Maybe I'll share some tomorrow on my 1800 celebration.
You have to. You have to, so you can celebrate those milestones.
It's just, it's a part of the story. Like, you trying to get the book, you know what I'm saying, already, like,
yeah.
You got a book,
You definitely got to write a book. I cannot believe when you said 1800 episode, I was like, whoa. That by itself is a high to me. I'm only on number 42. I can just imagine being at 1,000. So congrats to you.
When I started, Red and Blue Pill was celebrating, I think, 700 or 500 shows or something like that. Right? I said, I ain't no way in no world I get up to no 500 shows. I ain't got that much to talk about, right? I better want to do this show. You know,
Gotcha.
our elders used to tell us, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan.
That's right.
You understand?
That's right.
So,
Okay, so on the other
so
end,
I mean,
I know
that's
you
it.
did break down a little bit of a low. Let's talk about a low
Mm.
to where it questioned you, and you did already. If you want to share that one and give more detail, but just a low that made you question, like, dang, should I continue to proceed? Because you're here, you're still here, right? And I know throughout our journeys, sometimes we do have things that come our way, trials, tribulations, where it's like, ooh, all right, God, is this really for me? Because we get those doors closed and be like, okay, what's next? So, what is a low,
Right?
and what did you do to push through to continue to be where you are today?
I think the low was this started to feel like work. I was working too hard at it. When you're in a relationship and you don't know when to walk away, you working extra hard, you're doing everything in your power, right?
Yeah.
And you feel like you're wasting your time, you're spinning your wheels. You're going crazy with yourself, with you about this, and nobody else is involved in it. It's you
That's
fighting with
true.
you about what you chose to do, right? So this is the low. I'm at the low part. So if you can take the ebb, you can take the flow. So you're looking when it's not flowing, it's the ebb. You think it's supposed to be flowing. It's an ebb.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
know, they got this fancy word everybody get hyped about, right? Called retrograde.
mm-hmm,
Planets, march in procession and they regress. They regress for a moment and then they go
yeah,
in grand procession. You
mm-hmm,
see what I'm saying? So the tide ebbs and flows. There's a rise and fall of your chest. There's a heartbeat. There are all of these things that are associated with it, and that's the flow. You have to stay in the flow. And I was outside of the flow seeking to control the flow when
mm-hmm,
it's supposed to flow, when it's supposed to ebb. And you're not in control of that. You're
yeah,
supposed to go with the flow. And, pause and take a step back when it's the ebb.
mm-hmm,
It's there. Ancient civilizations from our people, they had the storehouse like the scripture speaks about. So the people took provisions when they were bountiful from the harvest to be able to eat when there was time of famine.
yeah,
So, you get that terminology, feast of famine, you know, when, the famine hit, things was destroyed, crops was destroyed, situations was destroyed, all of that. You see what I'm saying? And this is when you know who you are,
mm-hmm,
not during the feast, because everything is in abundance. Okay, when ribs start touching, you
mm-hmm,
know, situations ain't looking so good. You don't know where this or that is coming from. Will you remain faithful? Will you remain steadfast? Will you still have that abiding faith and trust that you had when things were abundant?
mm-hmm,
And they're very revealing and telling about people. So I'm thankful for those people that was around, and I'm thankful for those people who departed. I
mm-hmm,
holler at you. Peace. You understand what I'm saying? But you still take it in the human element kind of hard. So that would be a low, but it was a low that was necessary to rebuild a foundation. There had to be a chink. There had to be something that was open or exposed that would have you susceptible to you being destroyed in the process along with everything that you built.
yeah,
So this thing was taken away. This thing was taken away. Noah was up there chilling. God said, build an ark. He like, for what?
yeah,
You're like, it's about to start raining, son. That's why. So you like, gather your people together and tell them, hey, let's build this ark. And it was like, Noah drunk, man. Ain't nobody listening to Noah. All the way to the ark was built, the doors was closed, and the rain started coming.
yeah,
So whether it's physical rain or metaphoric rain, you have prepared yourself to weather the storm.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So it was a low moment, but it was a moment of reflection, and then you reflect on your life and say, have I been through worse before?
yeah,
A resume is there to remind you that you had success in life.
Yeah.
You look at that resume because it's a reminder. You in a job search, it's a struggle. The grind is real. You crazy. Now, then you start saying, "I just take anything." You inviting all of that stuff into your circumference that you would never. You understand? Because you just for the sake of.
Yeah.
Nah. So you remaining steadfast. You know, you the prodigal son or the prodigal daughter, and you got a home. You understand what I'm saying? You out here envious of what the swine is eating, and you got a home with people who love you, but you want to make it. You want to say, "I'm going to do this on my own and myself," and blah, blah, blah. You trying to hold me back and all of that. You're going to go out there.
Yeah.
And in that essence, you're going to come back home.
Yeah.
If you come back home, you see what I'm saying? Because a lot of us don't make it back home.
That's true.
But I was never low in the point to where I was disconnected from source. I just had to be reminded. In that break, in that time frame of not doing what I loved, reminded me that there was other things that were more important and needed my attention. So once those things, again, like I said, got back into order, and I got myself back in order, I could be back in order. And, that came back. And that's how I got out of that space. Because it's tough on your psyche. You know what I'm saying? You shared some stories with me. I was like, yeah, was that word? Yeah. Yes. You understand what I'm saying? But that's the catalyst and the push to be able to get going. That movie, Creed 2, it's like, get up. You know what I'm saying? Like, part 1 and part 2, he had to get up. He had to come back from it.
Yeah, he did.
You see what I'm saying? He ain't come back from it on his own. His family was there. His community was there. They was there with him. So he came back from that with that push. So that was that fight. He had to get in the middle of that ring and put that foot in the tire.
And that's what we got to do.
You see what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And that movie was so great to me. I ain't never seen nothing like that. He walked to that ring to fight that the man or the son who killed his father.
Yes.
Like an Avenger, but he had that woman right in front of him. She was walking that way before him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that was powerful.
It was so powerful. So powerful.
And she had it was like 1 minute and 30-something seconds the ring walk. But she told his whole journey. But she told their whole journey.
Yeah.
She told our whole journey in a minute and something seconds. You see what I'm saying? I was like, ooh, this is it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, the family there, everybody, boom, like, this is what it looked like on the other side. It didn't look like that a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it. It didn't look like that a couple of moments ago. You no longer saw yourself as the champion.
Yeah.
You had to be reminded. You see what I'm saying? You had to lose an eye in order to see. As, one of my teachers teaches. You had to lose an eye in order to see how you moving. Now you're sight in your vision is better than ever. Yeah.
I love it. Yes, knowledge. So, as the people can hear, you give all the knowledge. So if this was my show, you could just imagine what happens on his show. So tell the people how can they get in touch with you, how to get on your show, as far as your handlers, your email address, your website, and then also let us know what's upcoming for you.
Well, I'll be live in a few minutes. I'm actually late.
Oh.
But I'll be live in a few. No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. But I'll be live in a few, and I'll be live all this weekend, celebrating. But if you're looking to be a guest on the show, you can find this show on YouTube, www.youtube.com/Do the Knowledge Radio. That's DOCHAKNOWLEDGERADIO. You can follow the show on Instagram at Knowledge Born Alive 357 on Instagram, and on Twitter at Knowledge Born 15 on Twitter. Uh, um, yeah, you can find me that way. And if you're looking to be a guest or host a show on the network, you can DM me those places, or you can email me at dudeandloungeradio@gmail.com. And if I could, if you're looking to donate to our community initiatives, as I said, we're feeding 100 children 5 days a week, and want to do something again for the holidays, like we did last year, 100 turkeys with all of the stuff and presents and all of that. All of that. You can send us a donation. Cash App, $, I was born allowed, or PayPal.me/Food Knowledge Radio. So that's ways you can support and check us out. And if you catch me live, I got super chat out there. You know what I'm saying? You can drop a something in the super chat in the collection plate. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yes, because everything is so branded. I love how you have everything so branded. So definitely, y'all, check him out. Support. Do what you can. As you can see, whatever he receives, he gives back. So don't miss out, especially if you have a business. Support him because he'll definitely support you. So definitely reach out to Knowledge.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So we always end the show with a motivational moment. This may be a verse. This may be a quote. It's just a little bit of everything. Whatever piques my eye, I'm like, okay, that was really good. I bring it on the show. So I'm going to say it, and you let me know what you think about it, okay? All right, so this one says, optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without it. So I'm going to just say it one more time. Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without it. All right, so when I first read that, to me, it was, what I got from it was encouragement. You have to be optimistic. I know you may see one thing, but God may deliver it to you a different way. So you have to be, for one, optimistic to new opportunities. And also behind that, you have to be encouraged to follow through. You have to find the motivation. You have to make sure that you move forward with it. So that's why I think with leading it, you have to be open, and that, goes back to being optimistic. But then you have to do that follow through with, being encouraged and being motivated. So what about you, Knowledge? What do you think about that?
One is the proof of the other. One becomes the proof of the other. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying, okay, if this leads to this will prove this. Mm-hmm. If you are aware of it. You see what I'm saying? So this is the faith. So what will be your faith? You see what I'm saying? So either you can be optimistic or unoptimistic, and both of those have a fate. You understand what I'm saying? Both of them have a final destination. Just even looking at that movie with Tony Todd, he told the boy in Final Destination, he said, "I'll see you soon." Mm-hmm. Because he told him, like, hey, you can't cheat this. Whatever this is for you can't cheat it. So if you look at life, whatever this is that's for you, you can't measure that by what's for someone else.
That's true.
Because you get caught up in that rat race, and that'll be your final destination for you. What's for you is for you. So remaining open to what is being brought your way and what you want to receive and what you are supposed to give also based off of what you receive. It's a reciprocal kind of situation. Yeah. So this is life, because mathematics is life and life is mathematics. So we are living mathematics, living equation, looking to solve and be solved. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you have to work that. And this provides you a kind of through line to check your perspective, to check your mentality, to check where you are, and, you'll be able to reap the benefits from the harvest, whatever your harvest is.
I am just so excited right now. Thank you, Knowledge. I mean, you came through today, but I am not going to hold you. I know. I'm not going to hold you. I know you have like a weekend full of fun and activities and celebration. So, did you have any last words for the people? Anything of that nature? Because we are done. This is the close. This is it.
Thank you. Support What's Good podcast, because this is truly what's good. You understand? Everybody is the future of Black media. Expect big things on her, for her. Big investment, spending time, and get your life together.
You broke up a little bit. Okay, there you go.
Just get your life together so you can know what's good. Support Bree in this podcast. That's my last one. Support this. Make the investment. Business owner, anybody. If you're looking to get your story heard out there, if you're looking to go somewhere authentic, come right here. What's good? Support What's Good podcast with my sister, Rihanna Javon. She is a legend. You heard? Legend.
You are so amazing, and vice versa. I feel the same about you. Y'all make sure y'all support Do the Knowledge. I receive it. Thank you so much, Knowledge. But that is it, y'all. We're going to close it out. If this is morning, noon, evening, or night, thank you so much for tuning into What's Good podcast with your girl, Brianna Javon. Today we had Knowledge, and y'all have a great one. See y'all next week. Hey guys, for more updates, you can follow me on Instagram at what's good _podcast or my personal account b.javon_. Javon is spelled JOVAHN. You can catch me on Twitter, what's good _pod, C for Charlie. And then you can also catch me on Facebook at What's Good Podcast. Make sure that you subscribe and also leave reviews for me to also see, and I can also respond back to you guys. Let me know what you're thinking of the podcast and any updates. Thank you. Have a good one.